Why the smartest Gen X kids became the worst adults. Take a look at that, folks. Retired Frank. He's a fairly new entity on YouTube. Sounds like an AI generated voice, but whoever's behind this account is doing some really interesting work. Mr. Frank likes to analyze us Gen Xers and try to explain to us why we feel the way we do now based on how we grew up. And I got to take exception to this video, Mr. Frank. Alright, so this video that you just put up today is June, what is it, June the 5th, or is it the 6th? I'm not even smart enough to know what day it is. How's that, pal? It's June 2026. And yes, I'm 52. And in 1986, I was pulled aside in school and told you are gifted. Ooh. Well, like you said, a recommendation from a 4th or 5th grade teacher isn't going to necessarily land you the best job in the world. But I listened to your video, and I disagree how you go on about us gifted people being afraid of hard work, being afraid to take on challenges. Alright, I admit it. I never had to work hard to get decent marks when I was 9, 10, 11 years old. It came naturally, right? I just show up alive. Now, I was a good student. I paid attention when the teacher had something to say. I did the work, and I did well. I didn't have to go for extra help. I didn't need a tutor. I'll tell you what did happen. We went into the 6th grade. We had an interesting program in this school. The locals, of course, went to the school. But all these so-called gifted kids from all over the city, they also came to this school, and they were put into separate classrooms for grades 6, 7, and 8. So here I am, being told I'm gifted. I finished grade 5, number 1 in my class. I walk into grade 6, and even though I've only been into the school for a couple of years, I'm the most popular kid. Little old me, 11 years old, the most popular, and voted into the student council of the grade 6 organization. And I worked about as hard as I usually had to, and I ended up finishing first in that class. Probably got about an 85 average. But over my shoulder, there's those other students that are supposedly all better than me. They're bussed in from all over the city. They're the real smart people. They're the real gifted ones. You're just a regular jabroni who lives here and goes to this school. So after that brilliant meeting that took place, they said, okay, well, let's take a look. Should we move McCreath into the advanced program? And they looked at the number 2 kid in that grade 6 class and said the same thing. And guess what? My homeroom teacher said, no, McCreath is lazy. McCreath doesn't work hard. McCreath never has to work hard. So, how do you think that makes me feel? I'm told I'm gifted, okay? I still go out and do enough work to be the best in the class. And when the opportunity is presented, I was told, no, we're not going to let you go into this special program because we don't think you can cut it, kid. How do you think that made me feel? How do you think it motivated me? I said, you know what? At the end of the day, when you walk out of elementary school and you get yourself into high school, nobody's going to read the fine print. Did you go through the regular program or did you go through the enriched program? No. You do well enough, you pass your courses, you go to high school. Bottom line, But I'll be honest, I was really fucking pissed off. And I used that anger to motivate myself. And I did what I did. I didn't have to work hard, and I still did well. Grade 7, 3rd in the class. Grade 8, 5th in the class. Whatever. Go into high school, same thing. Didn't have to work too hard, and I still passed everything. Yeah, we had to go to night school on one of those math classes. But get this. So here I am, grade 12. I lived in Ontario, Canada at the time, so we actually had a grade 13. If you want to go to university, you have to take grade 13 courses. If you only want to go to community college, you're done after grade 12. Anyway, so here I am, getting marks in the, I don't know, high 60s, low 70s. Kind of a fish out of water in high school, socially. I'm trans. I didn't realize I was trans. So that's a whole other story that I won't get into right now. So here I am. I go into the guidance department and talk to the guidance counselors and say, okay, you're supposedly the experts. You tell me what should I do with the next steps of my life? We all know I was told I was gifted when I was 10 years old. My high school experience, well, I haven't really delivered the goods. And they said, you're gifted. You should go take science. And I said, all right, I don't know. I'm just a 17-year-old kid. I don't know what. You're the expert, so I'll do what you say. So off I go to university. And, yeah. You can't mail that in. You actually have to work hard, whether you're gifted or not. And the number one kid in my school, he did the same thing. He went to university and took sciences, and he fucking flopped out of university in the first year. So I don't feel so bad that I did the same thing. Humbling. Angry. Should have known better. Was that grade 6 teacher right? Am I too lazy to be doing this stuff? No. I just wasn't socially mature. I wasn't ready to enter the adolescence and adult world. Because I lived in this bubble. All I focused on was going to school, getting good enough grades, and then going home and being, what do you call it, a hermit. I had no social skills. Yeah, every now and then I get dragged out. Come on, we're going to play baseball, whatever. And later in my high school years, I got into playing a lot of tennis. And yes, I do have a bad knee, but we'll get onto that a little later. But it all started with playing 10 hours of tennis every day, Saturday and Sunday, for several years. And so yeah, we'll get into the knee story. And everyone's like, why would you go take science? What the hell are you going to do with a science degree? I wasn't really a science person. I was gifted. I did well in mathematics. I couldn't friggin' understand calculus, though, and that should have been a clear sign. I got 50 on the nose in that infamous grade 13 calculus class. And I know I didn't even earn that. The teacher gave me a free pass. They're like, you did pretty good in your other math courses. I'll let you by. We'll give you that 50 so you don't have to, I don't know, jerk around or take another year. I don't really get it. Bottom line, so I show up at university and the first thing they say is, yeah, I know you like math, but you got to take this physics stuff and you got to take this chemistry and you got to take calculus. I'm like, oh shit, that's not very good. I could barely pass that stuff in high school. How the hell am I going to do this in the university level? So yeah, it didn't work out too well. I didn't go to class too often. And it was an awkward, awful experience. And it was humiliating. And I came home with my tail between my legs. And this so-called gifted student, you've just embarrassed everyone, the family name. You've embarrassed your school, you've embarrassed yourself. And I'm like, I was never properly trained to work hard. Maybe, just maybe, if you had put me in that enriched class, maybe I would have learned to work hard. But no. You're too lazy. We're not going to even give you the chance to evolve or develop into that. That was just really bizarre and really fucking stupid. But no, I'm not lazy. You said on this fucking video that we don't have the guts to face hard work. We're afraid to fail because we've had it easy. Well, guess what, pal? No. I took a couple of years to try to figure myself out. Regroup, recover, rebuild. I did something practical. I went back to school, but I went to college and took business administration. And it was hilarious. Everyone was telling me, don't worry, I know you're 23 and you're going back to school, but there's going to be lots of older students there. And yeah, right. I walk into this classroom, I'm 23 years old, everyone else in the room is 18. And guess what? They looked up to me as if I was this anomaly. Big brother, big sister. And guess what? I dominated college. I didn't have to work hard at all. All I had to do was show up. I got 90% in almost every course except for the math courses where I got 100. Yes, every math course at Humber College in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, I got 100. How do you like that? And after that, I said, now we're going back to university. We're going to take something reasonable and practical. We're going to get a degree. We're going to take challenging courses. This is going to help me learn how to do hard work. And I'm not even going to go to a live classroom. I'm going to do online courses at the Athabasca University. It was the hot, trendy thing. Take correspondence courses. Work at your own pace. You don't even have a teacher yelling at you. You don't have deadlines. They send you all the material. You do all the work by yourself. If you need help, you can phone a teacher or a tutor. I did all the work. I went into the test center. I had exams that had one question, and you had 5 hours. Full-blown case studies. Wham. Guess what? I fucking did it. I dominated. I got my degree. And I said, for all you fucking people that said I was too stupid, too lazy, or unwilling or unable to maximize that potential of being gifted, guess what? There you have it. Finally, at the age of 31, I had a degree. And 2 years later, I had a job as a senior policy advisor for a provincial government here in Canada. Thank you very much. And then we got into running marathons, and we did more damage to our knees. But no, not like your stupid video said you quit after 10 miles. I said, fuck this shit. I'm going to run marathons. I'm going to go to the Boston Marathon. And I'm going to be the best fucking marathon runner in the history of my school. I'm not going to be the best athlete ever because Ken Dryden went to that school. But I went out and dominated the marathon world. And then I said, guess what? Now we're going to undertake the most challenging thing you could ever possibly imagine in 2007. Transition. Male to female. And we're going to do it, not in the big city. We're going to go to a little small island on the northeast tip of Canada called Newfoundland. And we're going to do it there. How about that? They said, you can't do that. And I said, watch me. All right, so I did lose that great job. Apparently being trans and being part of a right-wing leaning government doesn't always work well. I don't care how many times I got kicked over. I got back up on my feet, dusted myself off, found another job, and worked my butt off yet again. And on top of that, I had to negotiate a human rights system that was non-existent, a healthcare system that was completely incompetent, useless, uneducated, and unaware. I had to fight stigma and bullshit. We're still doing that now that we got people like Donald Trump running their mouth. Now let's talk a little more about that sports stuff, pal. You want innovation. Is it fair for trans people to be in sports? I don't know. Well, why don't you create a third category? I don't want to be male or female. I just want to run the fucking marathon and show you that trans people aren't stupid. We can go out and we can put together a 6-month program and train hard and run an amazing marathon. And that's exactly what I did. I went over to Copenhagen, Denmark. The World Out Games, became the first formally sanctioned transsexual marathon runner in world history. They gave me a gold medal and said, "You are the first and the best." How about that? Then I came back to Newfoundland and decided, I'm going to run for office. I'm going to put my name on a ballot. No trans person had ever run for political office at the federal government level in Canada. Not only did I say I was going to do it, I said, fuck the major parties. I don't like any of them. They're all useless. They don't give a shit about Newfoundland. They don't give a shit about rural environments. I'm going to join a francophone party from rural Quebec. And that's exactly what I did. A party that focused on rural Quebec decided to run me as a candidate in rural Newfoundland and Labrador. Not only that, they made me the English spokesperson for the entire party. So yeah, I'm not afraid of challenge. Heck, I took the difficult paths in life. It would have been easy to say, I'm just going to live in Toronto or Montreal or Vancouver and go through this transgender thing there. But I said no. When I came out to Newfoundland, I said the world needs to change. It's not fair for LGBTQ people to have to leave where they come from. I'm going to lay the foundation, and I'm going to make sure that everyone is welcome and accepted here and has a chance in life, and they don't have to leave. And then, of course, I went for a walk on a rotten wooden porch and fell through it and bashed the fuck out of my knee. I literally have a golf ball-sized hematoma on my knee. And it's been there for 4 years because the knee surgeons say it's too dangerous and too risky to have surgery. So you have to hobble around on one leg basically for the rest of your life, or until you're old enough to get knee replacements. So yeah, I've had a pretty difficult go of things here. But you know what? I've never shied away from it, pal. And what was the name of that video again? Why the smartest Gen X kids became the worst adults. No. I am not a worst adult at all. I have overcome the stupidity of the system you talked about in this video early. You talked about how they map the smart kids. So what? Look at sports. You draft somebody number 1. They still need enriching. They need coaching. They need guidance. You can't just take a bright talent and throw them on the football field and say, go win us a championship. No. You need tools. You need teammates. With the right and proper team in place, the gifted people can do well and should do well. I think the problem is you spend too much time taking them for granted. I had to find out for myself what hard work really was because I didn't learn that in school. I also went through a school system that said everyone should take science if you're smart. No one once ever told me, guess what? You're not going to get any decent jobs with a science degree unless you get 100% in all your courses and you can go be a fucking rocket scientist or an engineer. I should have been taking business or economics or politics right from the get-go. So I had my mulligan. I went back to school. I took smart, reasonable courses. I learned about economics, public policy, politics, psychology. You want to learn how to understand the world and do well in it? You got to study psychology. You got to understand how humans act, how they think, so you can learn how to process them, how to manage them, how to manipulate them if you have to. And in a world like mine, change management. Humans hate change. So I went and studied change management. And I think I did a pretty darn good job implementing a very difficult change in an environment that at first was completely closed to it. Am I running? What was those fancy job titles that the ungifted kids have? Yeah, I'm not a regional manager or a regional director, no. But you know what? I'm surviving. I'm on my own. I'm doing well. I don't have to go live in a homeless shelter. I'm paying my bills. And you know what? Like you said, there's still hope. No, I don't have a pension. At least not a very good one. But you know, as you just said, 14%. Only 14% of Gen Xers feel they have a decent enough pension to retire. So yeah, throw me in with the 86%. It sucks. We're screwed. But that's just the way it is. But no, I disagree with your assessment on this video. And I want to put out a wake-up call to all you teachers out there. Don't just tell kids they're smart. Don't tell kids they're gifted. Maybe don't even tell them that. Maybe secretly push them in directions. Because, again, you give someone a label, there's so much expectations on them. It's not just core talent. You got to process mentally what's going on. Why do some draft picks do well? Why do some become a bust? A lot of it's mental. Giftedness can only get you so far. Hard work, there's no substitute for it at all. So if you're watching this, thank you. Keep watching Frank, whatever his name is, Gen X Frank. He's got a couple different ones. Frank Gen X. He's got a LGBT Frank Gen X. Very interesting. I'm enjoying learning about all these things that we took for granted. You just grow up. You just assume that your life is regular and boring and normal, and you learn about the effects of being a latchkey kid. Yes, divorce rates started going way up in the 80s. Yeah, guess what? My parents split up in January of 1980. So yeah, I'm textbook. I fit the mold of who you are and what you're trying to study here. Maybe there aren't too many of us who are trans, but you know what? We're all humans. We lived through the 70s and the 80s, and yeah, we're tired, we're old, we're cranky, we're pissed off, but we're not lazy. You can't be lazy. We're in the sandwich generation. We've got lots of things to deal with. We've had uncertainty. We've been laid off from jobs. I still got parents to think, oh, you're just they'll eventually promote you. No. You don't understand. They don't promote people anymore. They don't reward hard work. They don't reward loyalty. If you want a better job, you got to go out and find a better job. And no, you don't even get decent work experience by just working. You got to take on side projects. That's why I've stuck my nose into so many volunteer and non-profit type of works. I get involved in elections. Not just me running my own elections, but I help other candidates. I take an interest. I go to town halls. I speak my mind. I call into the radio, and I explain whenever I see incompetence. One of your other videos talked about how Gen Xers can't stand incompetence. We don't respect titles. We respect competencies, and that is so true. So yeah, Frank, keep up your great videos. But I think you're wrong on this one. I honestly, you really got me fired up here. For a rundown, old, tired, 52-year-old Gen Xer, here I am on a Saturday night when I should be resting and enjoying, I don't know, something good on television maybe. But no, I'm turning on the video camera and I'm ranting because I see a lot of what you're getting at here. But no. Don't just tell people they're bright. Give them the tools to utilize that. A number one draft pick is not going to evolve if they sit on the bench for the whole career. You got to put them on the field. You got to encourage them to play. You got to encourage them to struggle and learn and lose. Flopping out of university in science was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I didn't learn a lot about math and science, but I got interested in sports. And I started watching football. And now I'm a big football fan, so at least I got something. There's always something positive out of bad experiences, right? Anyways, enough of that. Thank you everyone for watching. Have a great night.